Good evening, everyone, and we thank you for your patience. Right now, we are going to go to our City Council meeting for August 23rd, 2022. We have our opening ceremony. We've been in a special meeting at 6 o'clock, and we should be done by 9 o'clock tonight because we have to go back to closed session. At this time, meeting is now called to order. We will bow our heads for a silent prayer. Thank you. For a special reason, we're just sitting due to pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Councilwoman Noah.
Here.
Councilman Palmer.
Here.
Councilwoman Burrow.
Here.
Councilwoman Robinette.
Here.
Councilwoman Lipka is absent. Councilwoman Nelson.
Here.
Mayor Jones.
Here. A quorum is present. At this time, Clerk Pittman, do we have any public comments?
So we had one entered in advance tonight, and that is going to be Stephen Keating. I thought I saw him present. Stephen Keating, you had a comment for the council?
You have 3 minutes and you will get a 40-second warning.
Good evening. I just wanted to tell the council how disappointed I am with the liquor approvals that were done at the last session, where my business did not receive of approval for my license after I had had a license in Ferguson for 26 years. I really think the approval process was somewhat arbitrary. I know they mentioned crime incidents on my parking lot, but the chief's report stated at the end that there was nothing alcohol related and no negative information located to disqualify approval. It didn't sound like the chief had an issue, but certain council members did have an issue with my site, which I really don't understand what issues they had, because they weren't very clearly stated of why they didn't want my business to continue. I really wish the council would reconsider this. I've owned that business for 33 years in Ferguson. That's a very long time. I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong, or if I am, I wish they would tell me and I can correct it. But I just feel like I'm more the victim here, and crimes happening on my lot. I don't like it. I don't want it. I fear for my life. And I just feel like I'm getting the blame when I'm really the victim and not the perpetrator. So that's really all I wanted to state. If you guys would really please reconsider this, because I want to stay in Ferguson and I can't do it without that license. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am moving to the chat now, Mayor. That was the only one I had in advance, and I am not seeing any in my chat box.
Okay. You don't have any in the chat box? Okay, public comments are now closed. At this time, we'll move to our manager's report. City Manager Eric Osterberg, please give your report.
Good evening, mayors, city council, and our members of our community. Tonight, I have a couple of things to go over prior to giving the floor off to some staff members. The first thing is that As you know, FEMA is here in Ferguson, doing everything they can to help. So I want to remind everybody to go to our city website. There's a banner at the top called Emergency Alerts. We are pushing out constant updates as we receive new information from FEMA. That is happening at the moment, like every 1 to 2 days. So in order to have the most up-to-date information, please go to that website. If you were impacted by the flood, or you or anybody you know were impacted by the flood at all, please go onto that website, our website. We have direct links to FEMA for you to apply for aid. There are 2 ways you can apply for aid. One is through an online portal. There's a disasterassistance.gov website link on that website. On our emergency landing page. They'll ask you some information. It's really important that you get your application in as soon as possible because that will determine what aid you're able to get. FEMA is helping everybody in some capacity, regardless whether or not you're a homeowner or a renter. The mayor and I met with FEMA yesterday and they made that abundantly clear that they are helping everybody regardless of what your rental or ownership status is. There will be aid, there will be help. There's also a phone number on our website. Lastly, I'm proud to announce that we are likely going to get a disaster recovery center here in Ferguson at the Community Empowerment Center on West Florissant. That will be an area where FEMA and SEMA will have staff available for members of our community who are impacted by the flood to stop by in person and have help with their help making the applications. So you might, for example, put in an initial application requesting assistance, and there might be some reason that you are denied. Oftentimes you're denied because there's missing information in your application as opposed to you not being eligible for benefits. So we are hopeful that with FEMA coming and having that disaster recovery center here in Ferguson, that that will be a great resource for residents to ensure that they get the help that they need. Rolling into the next flood recovery item, which is debris. We are working with FEMA now in a conjunction with our contractors to work on getting the debris removed. FEMA has some pretty narrow criteria that we have to follow in order to ensure that we're reimbursed for flood debris. We will likely have to go out through a formal bid process to get a larger trash hauler to help us finish up some of this work. With that, there's also additional staff that we have to have hired through the contract or independently that will oversee that work. I'm supposed to have a meeting with FEMA tomorrow about those items, specifically as it pertains to what they're requiring from us to do. Right after the flood, the limitations on us responding to the flood as it pertains to debris were quite loose, but once the formal disaster declaration came down, there was quite a robust list, exhaustive list of things that we have to make sure that we're abiding by, such as in addition to separating the debris that we're moving off site, that there's actually some responsibility that we have as a city to oversee the cleaning of some of the debris prior to it going to a landfill. But we're working with FEMA and we're going to have a better sense of things tomorrow. But again, please go to that flood recovery website that we have set up for the most up-to-date information. The next part of my manager's report, just a couple, are just a presentation from Chief McCall on our community policing update. Chief McCall, are you here? Uh-oh. Does not look like he's here. Mayor, can we loop back around that after the special presentations?
Yes, we can.
I wonder if he's just having trouble getting on. Okay. That concludes my manager's report. But I will take any questions that City Council would have.
Councilman Palmer.
Yes, I wanted to see if we could get a brief update on the senior housing proposal that was approved on New Halls Ferry.
Yes, so if Paul's here, I think he can probably give the most up-to-date information. We're in negotiation still. That has not been signed at this time. There is some disagreement between the city and the Mr. McKinney on some aspects of the the RDA, specifically as it pertains to whose responsibility it is to bear the financial cost of the clearing the title.
So would any significant changes in the agreement come back to council prior to approval?
Yes, we would. That would be something that we would communicate with city council prior to entering into that agreement.
Okay, and has the $100,000 whatever grant already been issued, payment been issued to the developer?
No, nothing has been issued to the developer at this time.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Burrow, your hand
Thank
is
you, Mayor.
showing. Okay.
Thank you. I finally got it to work. See, Eric, on the same note that Councilman Palmer had, I would appreciate it if we could go to the EDST board and commission, because I believe there is a step that we have missed that we need to do before we go any further with the McKinney project. The abatement letter that we received from the state, we promised them that we would follow directions. And so there is a piece that I think we need to be going over before we go any further, but we can talk about this offline. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Now, Marissa, it's going to be a problem for me to get my hand down. Give me a moment. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we move to special presentation. City manager.
So members of our community, mayor, city council, Gene Diaz was originally going to be here with us tonight to give an overview on the launch of OpenGov, but I will be giving that launch overview instead. Octavia, can I have screen share permissions?
Go ahead.
All right, I just need to pull up the city website real fast. Oh.
Councilwoman Burrow, can you mute?
Councilwoman Burrow, you have been asked to mute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Screen share. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Should say splash screen saying, how can I help? How can we help?
Yep.
All right, so members of our community, we are going to be launching our OpenGov code violation portal on September 1st. So OpenGov is a company that we're working with to onboard a lot of our municipal processes as it pertains to permitting, licensing, and reporting issues that you have to the city. There will be a way to do that online. This will replace our existing report a concern tab that we have on our website. So the report a concern tab on the side of our website will redirect to this website. So I'm just going to kind of go over an example of how to report a code violation starting September 1st. So once you get to the splash page, you will see our OpenGov portal. So as we move forward with launching OpenGov and onboarding many of our other processes, you will see them reflected here on this page. This is going to be our OpenGov page. So they will be broken down by department. So we will first be looking at today how to submit a code inspection request. So you're going to go to community development. You'll see code inspections. You'll just go ahead and hit select. On this page, this is a comprehensive overview of how code moves forward towards resolving an issue that you might have as a citizen. So just so you all know, this is here for you to kind of just understand how we take, what steps we take internally towards resolving an issue that you report to the city. In order to move forward with submitting a violation, however, you're going to hit apply online because it's laid out as a application as opposed to kind of submitting a concern. We're working on getting that language updated. So the first, we tried to make this as easy as possible for our citizens. We heard feedback that oftentimes it's frustrating when you're using some of these online portals that we're asking for too much information. So we tried to make that as streamlined as possible. We also wanted a portal that would allow you to follow up on the status of a code enforcement ticket that you're submitting to the city. So the first thing we're going to ask for is an address or a point on the map. So you might be, in some cases, driving through the community and you might not exactly remember the specific address that you saw a code violation at. So for those cases, you're going to hit point on the map. What point on the map allows you to do is you can actually zoom in specifically to where you thought you saw a code violation, and you can double click and drop a pin. If you are having trouble remembering where you might have seen an issue just by a traditional map view, you can go ahead and from this drop-down menu here, click for a satellite view and move or place a pointer wherever is best for, or wherever best reflects where you believe you saw the infraction. However, today we're going to actually go through and use an address parcel to demonstrate an issue. So let's say, for the sake of argument, you saw a code violation at 110 Church Street. For those of you who are aware, that is City Hall. We're just using this as an example. What you will see on the first page is that our master address table actually pulls up all of the information about the parcel. All you'll have to do on this first page is hit next. You do not have to fill in any of that information. Second, we ask you first to describe an issue that you might have seen. So let's say, for example, we'll just pretend for the sake of argument that 110 Church Street is residential property and you're seeing overgrown grass. So you're just going to go ahead and type overgrown grass. Next, we're going to ask you, are the issues visible from the street? This helps our code staff identify whether or not they need to actually enter onto the property or ask for permission or go around to the side to see. So we'll just say from this case, yes, it is visible from the street. Property type, residential or commercial. We're just going to, for the sake of argument, say this is residential. Next, we're going to say, ask you, have you discussed this issue with your neighbor? The city always encourages you to, if you can and you feel safe, to initially have that conversation with your neighbor. We believe that building a spirit of community is really important, and oftentimes you might see an issue resolved just by having a conversation. But we also understand that there are times where having that conversation is not sufficient to getting the issue resolved. In those cases, regardless of the case, you can just go ahead and notify the city of wherever you feel. The last thing is, does the reporting individual want to remain anonymous? This just, when we build out our reporting, we'll be able to ensure that you are remain anonymous with your ticket that you're submitting to the city. So you could go ahead and hit yes or no right here. For the sake of argument, we will hit yes. The last step before the summary is a documentation of concern. You are able to upload pictures or videos of your concern of the code infraction. So in this case, you're looking at taking pictures of the overgrown grass that you witnessed. You can just hit upload right here. It will pop up with a prompt to select files from your computer to be able to upload and share with city code staff. It's very helpful for us to see those pictures, but by no means is it a requirement to submit that documentation. Next, the last thing before your submission is just a review of everything that you've shared with the city. You go ahead and just hit confirm and submit at that time, and it will shoot the code ticket off to the city. So now on the flip side, so you've submitted a code violation notice to the city. The question is, how do you then go and see the status of the city's steps towards resolving the issue? So to do that, you're going to go back to the splash page. You're going to hit search. On the address, you're going to look up an address. So we don't have any ticket history for that address, but we did put one as in our dummy environment for my address here in the city of Ferguson, which is 7 Marcel Court. So what you'll be able to do is you'll have to be able to pull up an address, and on the address, you'll be able to see all open code items for this address. So you see 4 here because this is the address that we've been using for our demo environment. This will be clear. All these demo tickets will be clear prior to launch on the 1st. So we're going to just go ahead and go into a complete ticket. What you'll see is the ticket number. You'll see the status. You'll see when the issue expires, and you'll also see an issue description of what the issue was, and then the property type. What you're looking for is the documents right here. The documents right here will give you the most up-to-date information on the steps that the city has taken to resolve an issue. Because this is a demo environment, you will notice that all of the documents were generated on the same day. That is atypical. Once we launch, you'll see the documents staggered out and appearing as we move forward towards resolution. So you'll see that we had a courtesy notice issued. There was not any action taken. We issued a final notice. There was action taken. So then we issued a closeout letter. So what you'll need to do to see a document is all you have to do is click on it, and it will pop up right in your browser. It'll let you know. The address and that the issue was resolved. That is the overview of the system. Again, we will be launching on September 1st. And now is the time for any questions that council might have or the community might have about OpenGov's code portal.
I have a question, Eric. And so
Yes.
will those tickets be dispersed out to spend it out over through the code enforcement department to the different code enforcers for that?
Yeah, so what you're seeing, what we showed today is just the view from the public. So what you see is all we ask you to do is submit the kind of the description of the code violation, and then it goes off to code. It's assigned to a code officer, and then all documentation that shows up are actual documents that are generated by our code staff as they're moving towards solutions. So, you know, we have the courtesy notice, we have the final notice, we have the closeout notice. In some cases, there might be city summary abatement, at which point there's a letter generated saying the city is using a contractor to abate an issue. All of that documentation is again generated by code staff and then posted on the website automatically as they're moving towards their steps towards seeking a resolution.
And if several of those are posted for the same address, will it allow different people to generate the same if it's going towards the same issue or concern?
Correct. So the system won't actually automatically reject it. We wanted to make sure that citizens could, had the freedom to submit an issue, even if it's a potentially duplicate one. So we didn't want to have one ticket submitted and then it block out additional tickets from being submitted, because there's a chance that there might be different issues that people are viewing on the same property. So the way that that's dealt with is by code staff. There's a check in there on the internal side from the code inspector's perspective on their computer screen. There's a prompt for them to actually make sure that they're not opening a new ticket on something that's already being worked on.
Okay, and will you see, so you put in for a ticket for whatever concern you may have, is there a time limit that those issues or concerns are reached by?
Yeah, so on the internal side, we actually have a bunch of escalating alerts that go all the way up to myself as the city manager. So it starts off with the code inspector who's assigned the ticket will be given a notice in 7 days. And if it goes an additional 7 days beyond that, then the code supervisor is notified. And then if the code supervisor doesn't ensure that that issue is resolved, then it would go up to the community development director. And after the community development director, if there's not a notice, it gets escalated up to city management.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Noah.
Oh, thanks, Mayor. Eric, for clarity, this is just for code, not, so say for instance, if someone dumps a mattress set somewhere, that's going to be municipal maintenance. That's not.
Yes, Correct. So there's going to be a separate process on that splash page that reads municipal, that we haven't figured out what the wording is going to be, but the other items on the report of concern, there will be a separate process where so for example, if there's a pothole, if there's illegal dumping, things of that nature, if there's a sign down on the road, you'll be able to report that through that separate portal.
Okay, thank you. And council should also use the portal to report.
Yes, please. That will be very helpful because this system will be replacing Enterprise, which is our current system. Again, we have all those email notifications set up, and it's a lot easier for us to track the status and report on the status, and also create and maintain records relating to code issues.
Any other questions for city manager? Hear none. The next item.
The next item we have is a presentation by SBA, giving an update about FEMA and disaster recovery. Do we have the member from SBA here in the audience with us tonight?
Eric, I'm not showing anyone respond.
Okay, all right. So it looks like SBA was forwarded the link. It looks like SBA just wasn't able to make it. SBA did communicate to me that they have limited staff in the St. Louis metro area, and there was a number of council meetings all happening tonight. So there is a chance that they might hop on at a later time, at which time we can make a decision if they're gonna be able to present still, but it does not look like they're available at this time, so we can move forward with the agenda.
Mayor, before we go too much further, we can go back because Chief McCall is here.
Oh,
Correct.
excellent.
I see him. City manager.
All right. Chief McCall is here to give the community policing update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
I apologize for my tardiness. I was having technical difficulties. Really didn't have much. Just to advise everyone that the members of the Ferguson Police Department are still doing what's required of them to do. Still showing that dedication and things of that sort. I'm happy to report that we are still showing interest in our department from people that want to be a part of our agency. Currently, we have one individual that is already in the police academy. The one individual did not make it through the academy because they had two at first, but that just supports why we do what we do in reference with this profession, because it's not something that everyone can do. Currently, we have 3 certified police officers that are in our process, 2 of which are in backgrounds as we speak. We also have 2 cadets in background, which might be slated for the next academy, which would be in January, the 1st of January. Also, in addition to those 2 cadets, we're looking at 2 additional possible cadets for that class, which would give us probably 4 or maybe 5 for that January class. One of which is the cadet that was unable to attend the current class that's in session now due to a motor vehicle accident. I also wanted to add that we have a total of 2 potential communications people, dispatchers in our background as we speak, as well as we had two former employees. One was a full-time dispatcher who did return as a part-time dispatcher now. And one is an officer who decided to go in another career direction, but she's also returned as a part-time dispatcher. So we're getting people back that are familiar with our operations and the things that we do. Also, today, I'm happy to report that we also got an additional 3 applications for possible dispatch positions as well. And we're still getting information. A lot of our police department applications have been hand delivered and things of that sort. So as I say, it's looking promising, and I'm optimistic about getting our staffing levels to where they need to be. Are there any questions?
Councilwoman Burrow, then Councilman Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, could you shed some light on what's happening with the CRB and the CRB board and what you've been working on with them?
Okay, I have been in communication with the CRB. I'm trying to get a meeting scheduled with them. Once I get confirmation on information, we have our PTO training that has been approved by the Department of Justice, as well as a monitoring team. And I want to get that before them to get there. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the training committee. With the CRB, I've talked to the new chairman, Mr. Knowles. And I know there is a meeting on Monday, getting some things together for them for that. Basically, reviewing a use of force incident that happened, I think it was a couple of years or so ago. They're just reviewing reports that have been taken just for their knowledge, with a similarity to what the monitor had done when I first took over as chief. But we have had communications, and I'm looking forward to working with them directly, as well as when our new consent decree coordinator gets on board.
Thank you. I spoke with the judge at the last monitor meeting about coming on to the phone call that you guys have. And so I would like to get with you and have a sit down conversation with you on the consent decree. Now, if I have to get with the judge to make that happen, let's see if we can't do that.
Okay.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Councilman Palmer?
Hey, Chief, would it be okay if I asked you kind of a process procedure type question?
Yes, sir.
When ShotSpotter is activated, what is the typical expectation of the law enforcement department in Ferguson from that time on?
The expectation of as far as what we do.
Correct.
Okay, basically, we're going to respond to that location. A good thing with ShotSpotter, it tends to pinpoint exactly where the shots are coming from. We respond to that location, and we look for any evidence or anything to support that the shots did occur. That tells us if it might be indoor or outdoor. If we do discover shell casings at minimal, then we're going to do is cordon off that scene and collect those items as evidence. We investigated like any other reported shots fired, but a lot of things depend on how much evidence that we do get. But the one thing that we do 110% of the time when we get these shots fired calls is to canvass the area for victims and or evidence.
When you say canvas, would that include exiting the vehicle and looking for shell casings on the ground?
Yes.
That did not happen about a month ago, where there was an incident of at least 3 different guns and over 20 rounds fired. And the officer just drove by and drove over shell casings and never even got out and investigated or asked anybody a question. The next day, the shell casings were found by the day shift on a second call from an adjacent property owner who had broken windows and damaged doors. And that was very troubling to hear that.
Yes, it's troubling for me to hear it now. Was that information ever passed on?
There should be reports.
Because I haven't heard anything about it.
So when you come in after, like in the morning, do you get like a report of what happened the prior shift of like, an incident of rapid gunfire, or do you see that kind of thing the day after, or no?
Yes, I do get ShotSpotter notifications on our Passover, but it doesn't go into detail in reference to that, as far as saying, well, officer whomever responded, officer whomever got out of the vehicle and canvassed the area.
Okay.
So the point I'm saying, if there's a vehicle number or something, I can research that and see exactly who that officer was that did not properly investigate that shot fire call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Burrow, is your hand stuck up again, or you fine?
Yes, ma'am, it is. I'm working hard to get it down. I'm so sorry.
Okay, that's no problem. Okay.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? I have one, Chief. I know this may be an overlapping question between code and the police department, but we have so many pit bulls, and the seniors are having a hard time. I spoke to a senior on Sunday, And adjacent to his property, there are 2 pit bulls, and he has to get up 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning to cut his grass. We cannot continue allow these pit bulls, the owners of the pit bulls, take over our neighborhoods.
Right,
There-
that's,
There is one person here who's breeding dogs and putting it on Facebook.
my suggestion would be when it comes to that and like this information, first and foremost, we have been in communication with St. Louis County in reference to, because the thing that happens is when these animals are seized and taken, they have to be housed somewhere. We don't have the facility nor the staffing to do that. But more importantly, if we do have a person that is breeding these animals or just violating ordinance itself, between the PD and code enforcement, we could put these individuals in court. That is really right now our primary, or the primary resolve that we have is to cite them and put them in court and things of that sort, because you seize the animal and what do you do with it? But I think with our code, even it doesn't really do any good now, but even now when we have people that are trying to move into our community, if that's a violation of code, then they should not be allowed to move in. But apparently that's happened in the past. So it's the point with the code, communicating when the neighbor goes out, if he sees the dogs out or anything, to call us. We can still cite the dog owner. We can still do that and get them, in our court. And also we have a nuisance ordinance as well. So when we combat that with the other things, as far as having to call the police on so many different occasions for the same incident that they've been warned about, then we could be looking at a possible violation of our nuisance ordinance as well.
Okay,
And then what I'll add is that in addition to citation, one of the things that I've heard from code when we're responding to pit bull calls is that oftentimes St. Louis County will respond, but they're not responding for several hours after we've made the call to them. And then in the event that they do respond, they give us this lip service that, oh, well, we would take the dog away, but our animal shelters are full. It's my understanding that St. Louis County's animal shelters during the pandemic filled up entirely. You had a lot of people who were adopting dogs, and then when they had to go back to work, they put them in the shelter. But the kind of the bottleneck that's happening is that the St. Louis County shelters have no kill policies. So that means they can only euthanize at like a 10% rate, which means that there's not been space that's opened up. We have recently bought some kennels to apprehend dogs, and some tools to actually leash the dogs to get them into the kennels. But the remaining challenge is after we kennel the dogs, getting St. Louis to pick up those dogs.
okay.
Mayor, I got a comment as well. So I know when a resident was having an issue and a concern over in Ferguson Woods regarding a pit, and she was steadily calling St. Louis County, wasn't getting any type of response. And then I called and I was informed that they would not come out because Ferguson is known as a breeding ground for pit bulls, is what I was told. And so therefore they wouldn't come out to the area, and just told her and myself to call the Ferguson Police Department. So in that instance, what are we doing that St. Louis County has us confirmed as a breeding ground for pit bulls? No comment?
Oh, I can comment on that. I don't know where St. Louis County Animal Control or whomever we get that from. First off, we're not, the police department is just that. It's the police department. In St. Louis County, they have animal control. They have the facilities that house these animals. They cannot pick and choose who they want to serve and who they do not want to serve. So the fact of it is that if that is a problem and they feel that that is occurring in Ferguson, then maybe they just need to communicate with us and let us know so we can be made aware that is occurring. To the best of my knowledge, a lot of homes with animals, and not just in Ferguson, but in other municipalities, are because when they were given their licenses, be it if it's a renter's license or moved in their homes, the city was not made aware that they had these pets. So therefore, then these pets, as time goes on, they age and then they grow and things of that sort. But if we just take a closer look, we have a ton of animals, not just in Ferguson, but within this area. And as it stands right now, St. Louis County, because it's within St. Louis County, they're tasked with handling animal control. They're funded by the citizens of St. Louis County to handle animal control.
Well, we need to make a visit to county council meeting and start demanding that they do something with these pit bulls, simply because these seniors have worked hard to pay for their homes. And it's just unfair to them that neighbors are moving in, breeding these pit bulls, and they can't even enjoy their home in their later years. And that's just unfair to our seniors and the homeowners. Okay, Councilman Palmer.
Mr. Carey, question. Is there any law we have now or any law that we could have that would be legal that would hold breeders accountable who are illegally breeding animals with criminal charges?
Yeah, I don't, off the top of my head, I don't recall anything in our code. And I would need to sort of, do a little bit of research on a state level to see what we had. But in our code, nothing triggers my thought process immediately.
I know we do have some breed specific legislation, but I don't know if that really, quantifies what a breeder is and then actually puts a penalty to what that would be should you be caught being an illegal breeder. I know there's a way to be a legal breeder, but we're not really trying to combat legal breeders. We're looking for how to figure out how to solve illegal breeding problems within the community.
For sure. And one thing, Councilman Palmer, that might be helpful, I recall dealing with that issue, not necessarily with Ferguson, where there was legislation, that specifically dealt with the issue of illegal breeders. And so, one thing that I might be able to do is sort of go back into that research that I had done in a different matter and maybe send you some, maybe a sample or an idea of what that legislation looks like, and then compare it to what we have. If we have any, again, nothing necessarily stands out in my mind right now, and see if that's something that the council would like to consider.
Right, because the dogs obviously are the problem, but the root cause is not the animals. Animals are behaving how animals behave. The problem is the people who are breeding animals. And that's where we need to try to solve that problem if there is a way to legally do that. So I'd be curious what you might find. I think technically in Ferguson, every animal is supposed to be registered, and I'm guessing we probably have less than a handful of pets registered with the city. But obviously, I've heard this as just as much as everybody else on council. Just kind of sitting idle and counting on counties not serving us, and it's not going to change anytime soon. So until we take the stance, we're going to either capture and euthanize, which I don't think would be a great idea. Then we better figure out how to hold owners accountable for their pets. So any information will be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely.
Councilwoman Burrow.
Thank you, Mayor. I put my hand up right before Councilman Palmer spoke up, but you had mentioned that we should be going to some of counties' council meetings, and I don't think that that's going to work because they have their council meeting the same time we do. And the better thing is to make legislation. I think that that's what we need to do. And Apollo, if we don't have it, we need to have it. I can think back when we were campaigning over in Ward 3. There were so many pits that I saw, I could not believe it. So they were not running loose. They were all pinned up, but they had them. And so I think that there ought to be legislature. I think that's the way that we ought to go. But whether we have it or not, because if we have it and we got seniors that are afraid, that means something's wrong. So we just need to be more diligent, Chief McCall, about how we handle that. And we're not dog catchers. And I know that that's what county is supposed to be doing. And if that's what they're supposed to be doing, we need to hold them accountable for what they're getting paid to do. So Chief, if you agree with that, I think that's a step in the right direction. Apollo, if you can get us that language, I'm pretty sure we can. We don't want seniors getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning afraid to be out. That's ridiculous. Homeowners, so I'm really disturbed by that. So Chief, could you look into that for us? Maybe work with Apollo to see what we could do.
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Apollo?
So, as Councilman Palmer and Councilman Burrow were talking, I did do a brief search in the city's code, and there is under Chapter 6, Animal Control, Section 6-21, there is an ordinance regulating pit bulls, regulation of pit bull dogs. It doesn't necessarily talk about breeders and breeding, but the city does have a pretty extensive ordinance about what defines a pit bull. And it basically says it shall be unlawful to keep, harbor, own, or possess within the city limits of Ferguson any pit bull, provided that pit bull dogs residing in the city on the effective date of this section may be kept within the city limits. So it looks like we have, we've outlawed that particular breed. So, again, it doesn't necessarily talk about, breeders or illegal breeding. And so that may be something that the council might consider, but do look at Chapter 6, Section 6.21, and Councilman Palmer, you and I, or myself and, and the rest of the council can sort of talk about whether or not that meets the city's needs or if we need to be broader.
Thank you. Councilwoman Burrow, your hand is up.
No, I just want to thank Apollo for going right into that, locating that right now research. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. Next. You muted, Eric. Okay.
Yeah, that I think that concludes the special presentation.
Okay, that concludes our special presentation. Item number 5, public hearing. We are not holding a public hearing tonight. So I repeat, we are not holding public hearings tonight. So let's move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda, which is City Council meeting minutes, the regular council meetings, May 10th, 2022, July 26th, 2022, August 9th, 2022. Request a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes.
So moved, Heather Robinette.
Second, Tony Burrow.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. The regular council meeting minutes have been approved. We have special council meeting, May 21st, August the 3rd. Request a motion and a second to approve the special council meeting minutes.
Tony Burrow, so moved.
Rita Noah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Special minutes are approved. We move to boards and commission meeting minutes, redistrict commission, May the 26th, 2022, and the traffic commission, June the 21st, 2022. Request a motion and a second to receive and file the meeting minutes.
Tony Burrow, so moved.
Second, Heather Robinette.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Apollo, you have your hand up? Okay, all right. Our next item on the agenda is C, appointments. We have several appointments to boards and commission tonight. We have Tiana Darris for CRB, appointed by the council. Do we have a motion and a second?
Tony Burrow, so moved.
Second, Heather Robinette.
Are you ready to vote? All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. We have another appointment, Stephen Robbing for traffic. It's appointed by the council.
So moved, Heather Robinette.
Second, Mike Palmer.
Are you ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Tony Burrow, nay.
Mayor Ella Jones, nay.
Naquita Noah, nay.
Mayor,
Yeah,
so that I can properly record everyone, can I just do a roll?
yeah, do a roll call. That would be great.
Okay. Councilwoman Noah,
No.
Councilman Palmer,
Aye.
Councilwoman Burrow,
Nay.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Nay.
Councilwoman Nelson,
Nay.
What is your vote count?
Mayor, I have 4 nay and 2 ayes.
Motion failed. The next one is Cheryl Dickey for the Personnel Board, appointed by council.
Phaedra Nelson, so moved.
Tony Burrow, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Bernie Frazier for the Personnel Board, appointed by the council.
Tony
Phaedra
Burrow, so
Nelson.
moved.
Phaedra Nelson, second.
Are you ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Raymond Cuffey for Farmers Market, appointed by the council.
Tony Burrow, so moved.
Phaedra Nelson, second.
Are you ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Donald Dickey for Planning and Zoning Commission, appointed by the council.
Phaedra Nelson, so moved.
Tony Burrow, second.
Are you ready to vote? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, we'll move to our annual liquor license approval. City Clerk Pittman.
Yes, first, I do have a liquor license request, and it's for a temporary license for Our Lady of Guadalupe. They are holding their annual Hispanic Festival at January Wabash on September the 18th from 12 to 7.
Tony Burrow, so moved.
Phaedra Nelson, second.
Are you ready to vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, City Clerk.
Next, I sent you guys all the information that you requested. And I also updated you on the status of those licenses that were pending. We have to start with Ferguson Amico. That process is complete. Midwest Wine Bar is still pending. Cracker Barrel and the Mini Market have both completed the process. But there are several others that are still pending, and that's going to be Morello Convenience or Nor Liquor, Blessed Teresa, Philip 66, Ophir Palace, King of Soul Cafe, and then finally the Deja Vu.
Okay, what is causing them for their license to be pending?
So Midwest Wine Bar is still going through the business license approval part. And the others are, they still have items that are pending approval for their exterior inspection.
Councilman Palmer?
My hand shouldn't be up. If it is, it's some sort of issue.
Okay. Open for discussion. Would you all want to extend this time for
Mayor Jones, I don't even want to fool it, trying to put my hand up if you don't mind. It's too
Go
much trouble.
ahead.
I want to ask City Manager Eric. Eric, is this your bailiwick that you approve these things, the final approval? Is that you or is that us?
Are you asking about the liquor licenses?
Yes, sir. I'm trying to.
No, I do not have final approval for liquor licenses.
Okay. So then, Octavia, I'm with Mayor Jones. What's the problem?
So there's a couple of things going on here. One, we have more staff. And so they are actually able to go out and really look at the properties. We have updated our compliance code. So if you recall last year, we updated our building codes and so forth. So there's different regulations that they have to go by. And, second is just being able to, or last I'll say, is just being able to get them to get through with all of the things. Some of the items, like I said, are as simple as striping the parking lot. Others, there is painting that's required. There is pavement that's required. It's my understanding that they've been in communications with inspections, but some of them are still going through that process.
Okay.
In the past, when we reached this impasse, what you guys would do is you all would offer them a conditional, and you would give them more time to actually complete the process. So what we had been given was 60 to 90 days to complete the process. Anyone that was unable to get those things done, because when you're looking at like pavement issues and stuff like that, some of it is landscaping. It could take a little bit more time than 2 and 3 weeks. So in the event that they can't get those items done within the amount of time that's given, then, I would bring it back to you guys.
So my question to you then, in that case, are we setting a new precedence? Because, and right now, I can't even get a new dining room table because in the last 6 weeks, there's just nobody to move the table. So I can understand what would happen. And I'm just going to use Blessed Teresa Calcutta. They have usually always gotten their things done. And so I think it may be the time, just the sign of the times right now. So I would think that we would go with protocol. And if this is something that we've been done, and I want to say that I think you're very reliable. And if it's going through you, I feel comfortable that these things will be watched.
So one of the things that happened, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead, please.
One of the things that happened, the reason why this process has been, kind of chaotic this year is because the council, noted last year that you did not want to do the conditional licenses. And there's a reason why we did issue conditional licenses. And I understand, why you would not want to, but that's kind of why we've been coming back every meeting. And you all are extending them to the next meeting. So, so are we setting precedents? Well, kind of, yeah, we did kind of change the process this year, but it was noted that you all did not want to issue conditional licenses.
Mayor Jones, in sight of what we're doing this every month, coming back with this, can we just do a 90-day? Can you take a vote or whatever it needs to be? And
I think we should offer them conditional licenses instead
Yeah.
of coming back every meeting. And Octavia says from 60 to 90 days.
Yeah, so what you've done in the past, they will be issued their license with the conditional status. In the event that they complete everything, then the conditions is removed. In the event that they do not, the condition is not removed and it's brought back to the city council.
Okay,
I would go for that.
I'm, okay, Councilwoman Nelson, you wanted to say something?
No, I was asking about the conditional license because I guess my memory just bad. I don't recall information regarding that. So I was just gonna ask why we weren't able to be able to do that conditional licensing for these businesses. That's all.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Tony Burrow, I'd like to put that motion forth as Octavia has stated before. So Octavia, whatever words that is, that we would give conditional licensing to those that need to have the additional 90 days.
Okay, but I want to make sure that we have two separate actions that we're taking, because I have some that completely completed the process, right? So they're done. So if we can just get them approved and they're out the way, and then, so we can start with this one though, so that way we're clear. We can start with the conditional since you've already started your motion.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Phaedra Nelson, second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
Okay. I didn't hear Councilwoman Robinette.
So like, I would like it to be repeated. Like we're giving them, we said we wouldn't give them the leeway and that now we're going to give them leeway. Is that what we're saying?
Councilwoman Burrow, would you restate your motion?
For the ones that we're going to allow conditioner to, I guess first we need to answer Heather's question. Heather, you're trying to say, are we backtracking? Is that what you're getting to?
Yeah.
Okay, so no, we're not backtracking. We're going to move forward and say, because we're coming back every year, I'm just answering, Mayor, just for you, I'm just answering Heather's question. We're going forward and moving into a situation where we have been before. And so we see that it's not prudent that we changed it. So what we're doing is moving forward, and we will allow a 90-day grace. Is that what it is, Octavia, grace?
Yes, we can do it for 90 days in the event that the individuals have not completed the entire process within the 90 days. And that means any of their inspection, all of their inspection issues are not completed to satisfaction. Then I will bring those individuals back to the council.
That's the motion, Heather.
Okay.
Thank you.
We do have a second. Councilwoman Nelson, you still carry your second?
Yes.
Okay. Are we ready to vote? All in favor, please, by the sign of aye.
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 Any opposed?
Abstain.
We have one abstain. The motion carries. Now we have another business whose license are to be approved. Is that not correct, Clerk Pittman?
Yeah, and that's those that have completed the process, and that's going to be Cracker Barrel. We have Mini Market, and then the other one on the list was the Ferguson Amico.
Is there a motion on the floor for approval?
Can I ask this just for clarity? This is approved, so the Ferguson Amico is included in this vote for the approval of the liquor license?
Yes. Unless you all ask for it to be done separately.
Yeah, I would like a separate vote
A separate vote for what?
for the Amico, the BP Amico.
Can I ask you why are we doing a separate vote?
Because I want my vote to be separate, because I just don't feel like we should be voting collectively for these businesses that we just had a council meeting 2 weeks ago, and I stated my opinion, and I want my vote to be separate. And so I don't want the other businesses, I don't want to vote no for those businesses or abstain from the vote.
Okay, so I got another question, Mayor. Are we gonna allow that each person can do separate and pull out of a group every time? I mean, is that even plausible? Is that even feasible? I just want to know, is this what we're gonna be doing going forward? If somebody wants to pull out a vote, they can change is that a lot of work for nothing when we have the clerk to pull all this together and then we pull it apart when we come to council? If that's what we're gonna do, this should be done, not at this time. I don't think, in my opinion, we shouldn't spend time on this when people start pulling things apart that the clerk has already put together. I want to state that. I want that to be for the record, because if that's what we're gonna do, we should do them all separate.
In
That's
the
what-
past, we have never pulled out an individual business to do a separate vote. At this time, Apollo, what is your opinion?
Yeah, from a legal perspective, I don't necessarily know if this has much legal impact. I will say, when we, if the idea is to sort of separate, separate certain owners from other owners, we should probably just figure out as a city whether or not we're going to do that moving forward, or, are we going to, if this is just sort of like a one-off thing. You don't want it to be a one-off thing, because then it sort of looks like we're sort of cherry picking, people that we might individually have issues with, that kind of thing. So from a policy perspective, it's probably better for the city to, have the policy and stick with it. If we're going to sort of decouple, we need to just decouple altogether, and, do that going forward, as a policy versus, just sort of, doing the one-off thing. That puts us in a difficult position should somebody, claim, some sort of impropriety with that. But that's my only thought about it.
Thank you. That's exactly what I mean, Mayor. We don't want to pull things out for people to have to throw a dart at, because that's what we are allowing if that's what we do.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor to accept the liquor license from the various businesses that Octavia has stated?
This is Tony Barrow, so moved.
Is there a second?
Can we get them reread again? Because
Okay.
there's been a lot of discussion.
So this is Cracker Barrel, Mini Market, and Ferguson Amico.
There's a motion on the floor that's requiring a second.
I think Tony seconded.
No, I think I put the motion on.
She put the motion on the
Oh,
floor.
okay. Second, Heather Rodnett.
Okay, are you ready to vote? All in favor? Your voting sign by aye.
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 Any opposed?
And
I'll abstain.
How many ayes, Octavia?
It looks like there's 4 ayes and 2 abstain.
Okay, motion carries. At this time, we'll move to, and do we have any other liquor license?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Liquor license portion closed. We'll move to our resolutions. Resolution number 2022-36. Without objection, we're introduced by council members present. Hear none. Attorney Carey, could you please read the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 22-36, a resolution authorizing certain officials to execute instruments relating to city funds held with Multi-Bank Securities, Inc. and Pershing LLC.
City manager, please explain.
Yes, this is another update to our banking accounts, our finance accounts. So this was priorly authorization that Lexi held when she was the finance director, Lexi and then Jeff Bloom. This is just us asking for this permission. Our finance director, Evan Trump, is here also to give some information about this item.
Basically to change over the is the signer decision maker from Alexis Miller to myself as the person on the account. But there's paperwork that would require that we have a resolution of my council for this. The reason why it's brought forth tonight.
Councilwoman Burrow, you have a question.
Evan, does that require that you have a backup? Because one of the failures that we had after Lexi left was because there was no backup.
We can have a backup. It's not required that we have a backup. However, I do not have an assistant finance director. But we can also discuss, we do not have a backup in that regard.
Okay. Thank you,
I
Evans.
believe-
What I would like to do is I would like to have a backup because we've had a problem. And if we don't fix the problem, then we might as well be back where we started. So Mayor Jones, I think it would be, I'm sorry, Eric, 1 second.
I think I might be able to answer your question by directing a question to Evan. The resolution read that it's both me and you being added on. Is that correct?
It could be, yes, that is correct.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, the resolution reads me as the second person who can deal with the securities. Named authorized persons of the city of Ferguson, Missouri, herein call the organization are as follows: Eric Osterberg, city manager; Evan Trump, director of finance.
Okay, in that case, then I would move, and we might have to change this, Mayor. I would think that could we, and Apollo, you can back me up on this. We could have the clerk added as well to this resolution. I'd like to see that done. And so, Mayor, would you have that considered in this resolution, that we also, because this fiasco that we just went through, somebody ought to be smart about it now. And I would appreciate it if we could look at that. Is there any problem with us doing that, Apollo?
Legally, no.
Okay.
But there might be some other, it looks like Eric has some thoughts about it though.
Okay, well, the council has the right in a resolution to say the words and make this as clear as we want it to be. And the ridiculousness that we had for this last year, I think it would be ludicrous for us not to have safeguards. Merrick, let me have your opinion on that.
Okay, let me hear from Eric.
Okay.
Eric, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so it just traditionally it's irregular to have some finance access to accounts beyond just the city manager and the director of finance.
Okay, traditionally, but when we look at what's actual, and I don't want to bring this up in full forum here, but everybody on the dais know that when we had the biggest mistakes was because there was nobody. And if we go back to some incidents that happened with pensions and things of that nature, if we had had somebody else sitting in that seat, able to sign, and if you would go out, just go to the internet and look at all the big companies, there are people outside of the president and the treasurer or the finance person that is on that card or listed in those positions to sign. I'm telling you, from what we've been through, we ought to be smarter than this.
So what you propose in Councilwoman Borough is that we have 3 signatures and the 3rd signature is Octavia Pittman, the city clerk. Is that correct?
The person who works for the council. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and our attorney say he doesn't see anything wrong with that. So therefore, put forth your motion.
Like I would ask that, like, we can make sure that there isn't anything wrong with that. If Apollo can research that.
You can have as many signatures that you want on your account. That's the truth.
No, I know that, Tony.
Okay, then what are you asking then? Ed? I'm confused.
I'm just making sure that we have like all the ducks in a row, that everybody who can sign should be able to sign. And like, that's not a slight to anybody, but I'm just asking that we,
That's fine with me. And I will tell you this,
think
that
about
it was the last finance director's job to have had two of the people that was assigned to her to have the ability to write, which means their names would have been there too. So if you want to think about that, it was that the last finance director did not do the job of having those people there. So I'm just trying to fix something that was broke before.
So is there things that the finance director wasn't doing that you want another staff person to do?
Who's asking this question?
This is
City
Eric.
manager.
No, I just want it to be covered. No, I'm not looking for an extra job. Thank you.
Councilman Palmer, you have your hand up.
Obviously, there's pros and cons to every suggestion and decision. I'm just curious, what's the worst case scenario of having 3 signers? Is there like a potential for fraud, assuming that the clerk went off the rails and started like cutting checks and selling securities, or what's the concern?
No, you have to have 2 signatures anyway. Somebody would have to back that up. She's not gonna be able to go and sign a check and take it to the bank. Mike, and I appreciate your question on that. What this is just an extra layer of security that we don't have things falling through the cracks, business people calling saying they didn't get a check for this and didn't get a check for that, in the event that the same scenario that we just went through this in the last 9 months don't happen again. We are covering ourselves. That's all this is.
Is that correct information, Mr. Carey?
Well, I think what they're asking me to do is, to make sure that that's the right thing to do. And so
I'm just
I
curious.
heard-
I mean, obviously, there's a reason that historically there's been 2 signers. I'm not saying I got a problem with 3. I'm just curious what would be something bad that could happen, the pros and cons. You know what I mean?
Well, it's new ground. Obviously, like you said, historically, there's only been 2. But I mean, the more signers you have, it's just harder to keep track. If obviously Octavia is the clerk now, but if the idea is to make the city clerk, whether it's Octavia or whoever, be that third person, the more signers you have on an account, the more opportunity there is for there to be issues. But at the same time, there's a point to making sure that if something happens to one or both of the other signers, you have someone who is able to execute. So I don't see any, legally speaking, they'll let you put as many signers on the account as you want. But so I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down, it probably is going to come down to just sort of propriety of it. But, I'm happy to, take a look at that and then present council with something so that you can, have something to make a sound decision on.
Is there any reason why we cannot approve the 2 signatures tonight? Give the attorney an opportunity to research for a 3rd signature. We can always come back with another resolution.
I think the best thing to do is that if you're going to do it that way, is to say if there is no discrepancies, then it's approved with the 3rd signature. That would be the proper way to do it, in my opinion, and we can go to Apollo on that. If we're going to come back with it, it would be to approve it now, and then if it's okay in the legal realm, but in the legal realm, it is okay. I already know that. So I think that to keep from doing, Ella, what we have done before, what we have seen in the last 9 months, this is what should happen.
City manager, you had your hand up.
No.
Okay. Apollo, any further input?
No, I'm obviously will do whatever it's the council's pleasure to do. Right now, I think what I heard was you want me to sort of, investigate it and present you with, what I think the best path forward would be, and I'm happy to do that.
Is there any reason why we cannot approve this resolution tonight with the 2 signatures and then
No.
come back for the third one?
Legally, no.
Okay,
So is that your pleasure, Ella, to approve it?
that
and
is my pleasure to get the resolution passed tonight. Give Apollo an opportunity to research or whatever and come back to us. And we can always add another resolution for the third signature.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to it again and say that it is the same thing. If you would change your proposal to mean that if Apollo comes back and there is no discrepancy, then the third signature would be added. Could you change it to that?
Well, you put the motion on the floor.
Okay, that, Octavia, did you hear what I just said? And can you put it into words?
It sounds like you want to approve it with the amendment, given there's no issues with it. I mean, I have to put that in the right words, but is that what you're
Right.
asking?
Right, given that Apollo finds no issues, no discrepancies, the third signature would be automatically added and approved tonight. Make sense to
And
you,
in the
Attorney
event that
Apollo?
it is, and in the event that it is, will that third signature be removed?
It will not be added, correct.
Okay. Gotcha.
Does that make sense to you, Apollo?
I think I heard it correctly.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Burrow has a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Is there a second to the motion that Councilwoman Burrow has on the floor?
I want to make sure I understand this motion. So,
That's fair. You want me to,
okay, go ahead.
with the resolution on the floor, it is for the two, there would be Eric and Evan to be on the resolution, to be signers on our account
Mhm.
with the clerk as the third signature. For this resolution, what we're doing for this motion, what we're doing is saying, we're gonna approve those two. Apollo would investigate. If he finds no discrepancy in adding a third person as the clerk, city clerk, then the city clerk would be on the third signature.
And with that third person in the clerk, Councilwoman Burrows, where is that for her to be a backup if Evan and Eric is not able to sign, or?
What happens in most of the, in all of the business accounts that I have with different entities, and I'm on the finance, you have to have 2 signatures at all times anyway. So in a business like this, there should be 2 signatures. I think in a finance department, when we have a finance director, the finance director probably can sign by himself and Eric is the backup. Is that correct, Eric? I can't hear you, Eric.
That is correct.
Right. So then, Phaedra, then to your question, then Octavia would be the backup.
Okay. Okay. I'll second.
Thank you.
It has been properly moved in second. Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Councilwoman Burrow,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilman Palmer,
Aye.
Resolution number 2022-36 passes. We have resolution number 2022-37. Without objection, we're introduced by council members present. Hear none. Attorney Carey, could you please read the resolution?
Well, so I want to back up to something we just did. So we had the resolution on the table, the one we just sort of voted on. Did we vote to amend the resolution and then the amendment was passed and then we voted on the resolution, or?
No, we did not. We did not
Combine it all.
amend the resolution.
Okay, so we should have, it sounded like Councilwoman Burrow's motion was a motion to amend the resolution as I read it. It sounded like she amended the resolution.
To do what we did, I think, Apollo, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah,
To do what we did, then I think you're correct. We have to amend it to add an additional signature.
right. So technically then that first vote would have been to just amend the resolution, and then we need to pass it.
Right.
So,
And that's how I have that written.
I'm sorry.
I mean, that's how I have it written.
Oh,
It's
that's how you have it written.
For the
Right.
amendment, right?
Okay. So we voted on the amendment, but then did we actually then vote on the actual resolution?
Right.
So we need to vote on the actual resolution after the amendment.
Correct.
Okay,
So it's another roll call.
yes.
Okay.
There's another motion and another second, and then the roll call vote.
So I make the motion to amend the resolution.
We already amended the resolution.
So that's the first one.
Correct.
So the second one, I make the motion to approve.
Yeah, that's as you, I mean, and I know sometimes we do this all the time. So sometimes we just forget
Right.
about the technicality of it. But if we amend the resolution, we have to vote on, we have to vote to amend it and then vote on the resolution as amended.
Okay, so the motion now, Octavia, is to vote on the resolution as amended.
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Ellen.
Second, Naquita Noah.
Clerk Pippen, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Burrow,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilman Palmer.
Aye.
Resolution number 2022-36 passes. We now move to resolution number 2022-34. Without objection, we're introduced by council members present. Hear none. Attorney Carey, could you please read the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 2022-37. A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into and execute a contract with Clifton Larson Allen LLP to provide audit services.
City manager?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This is a resolution authorizing us to enter into a contract with a new audit firm. We went out through a competitive bid process initially. If you'll recall that we only had the existing auditor and another firm apply. So we spent some time interviewing audit firms and getting a third, and I believe maybe even a fourth quote. Our finance director, Evan Trump, is here today to go over why we are recommending CLA as our new audit firm.
After interviewing and talking to different audit firms, the Clifton Larson and Allen seem to have provided us the best service and also the best price that fits within our budget, and then what we budgeted for our outside audit firm for this year. It is always recommended that every few years that we do look at searching for a new audit firm, and also from what I believe through the city manager that the council has requested us to look for a new audit firm other than Bott's Deal, who have we used in the past. So that's the other reason why we looked. Clifton Larson also offered us, it works 25% of their business works with other municipalities, local governments, counties, and cities across the nation. They are a nationwide firm. They do have offices here in St. Louis. Meeting with one of the principals that would head up our audit and the team that would provide. They've offered other services that Bottsdale were not offering, as far as helping us map out some of our finance workflow, finding some areas where we have some bottlenecks, where we could make things flow a little easier and process things a little more streamlined, and also assisting us in a forensic audit as well, which is something that I know that has been requested as well. That is one of the reasons they've come also highly recommended. I've talked to another city manager in the area who they use, and they've been very pleased with them this past year as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. I'm requesting a motion and a second for approval.
Tony Burrows, so moved.
Naquita Noah second.
Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilman Palmer,
Aye.
Councilwoman Burrow,
Aye.
Resolution number 2022-37 passes. Resolution number 2022-38. Without objection, were introduced by council members present. Hear none. Attorney Carey, could you please read the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. A resolution authorizing, resolution number 2022-38. A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into and execute an agreement with Global Relay for data retention services.
City manager.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Global Relay is a firm that specializes in government transparency communication in particular. So this is an idea that comes from my hometown. City of Fort Collins implemented a portal on their city website with Global Relay that allows for citizens to hop online and see any city emails that were forwarded in between city employees or members of the public, with the exception of city emails that have to do with ongoing legal cases. So this firm is a firm that would retain that data for all of our email and make it publicly accessible.
Any questions? I'm requesting a motion and a second for approval.
Tony Burrows, so moved.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Naquita Noah second.
Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Jones,
Aye.
Councilwoman Nelson, Councilwoman Nelson,
I'm sorry, my internet is slow here. Aye.
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilman Palmer,
Aye.
Councilwoman Burrow,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Resolution number 2022-38 passes. We have bills requiring first reading with no actions. Without objection, were introduced by council members present. Bill number 7232. Hear none. Attorney Carey, could you read the bill by title only?
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 7232, an ordinance amending chapters 25 of the municipal code of the city of Ferguson relating to issuance of a business license to rent residential real estate.
City Manager Osterberg, could you please explain?
Yes, I believe this was a bill being introduced by Councilor Noah to tighten up some language related to our business license, our residential rental license, excuse me.
At this time, no action is taken for the first reading. We have bill number 7233. Apollo, could you read the bill by title only?
Yes, ma'am. Bill number 7233. An ordinance amending section 2-381 of Article 5 of Title II of the Municipal Code relating to terms of members of boards and commissions of the city.
City manager,
I believe this bill is being introduced by Councilor Palmer. If you'd like to kind of give an overview.
This bill just simply changes the successive terms a person can serve on a board, as well as the number of boards a person can serve on concurrently. This helps to kind of bolster our boards and commissions and their attendance so that we can have quorums, we can get the city's business done. It changed it from 1 board or commission to 2 that you could serve on concurrently. It changed the successive terms from 2 to 3.
at this time, no action is taken for the first reading. Councilwoman Burrow, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I have a question for Councilman Palmer. And coming up pretty soon next month, we're going to be talking about boards and commissions. And I'm wanting to ask Mike if he would be willing to wait until after we finish that discussion and get those things underway before we add this in. I am in full consent with what he's talking about, but I think that Mike, it might work out better for us if we wait until we get through those negotiations that we have coming up.
We could do that when the second reading come up, that we can postpone it to a later date.
Something you might be interested in, Mike?
If we set a date and actually do it, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Number 9, bills requiring second reading. We don't have any. Councilwoman, okay. Bills requiring second reading. We have none. Item number 10. Octavia, City Clerk, could you please give us the results of the certification of the August 2nd results?
Yes, so I have received certified results from the St. Louis County Board of Election Commissioners. And for Prop U, that vote we received 1,344 votes yes, 1,049 votes no. So that proposition did pass.
Is there a motion and a second to accept the results from the Board of Election?
So moved, Heather Robinette.
Tony Burrow, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The certification of the August 2nd election board of results accepted, motion passed. At this time, we're at the 9 o'clock hour and we still have other business to attend to. Is there a motion on the floor to suspend the rest of the business for the day so we can go back into the closed session?
Mayor Jones, could I just say one thing before we do that? And I'm willing to do that. I'm just so grateful that Prop U was passed. And I just would like to say, in a show of good faith, and I've spoken with City Manager Osterberg, I mentioned this to him, that we could go ahead and do the raises for the fire department and the police department on this prop being passed. And I just want to put that out there for folks to think about in a show of good faith. And do you want me to go ahead and make the motion to close out now?
Yeah, to move the rest of the items from this meeting to the next meeting, so we can go back into closed session.
So moved.
Adrian Nelson, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Since we left, let me ask you a question, Octavia. Since we was kicked out, do we need to go back and revote to go to closed session, or we could go back and enter?
I think for the record, we should vote to go back in there.
Okay.
Okay. Thank
Do we,
you.
Ella, do we use that same,
Now
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that link. We could try that link, or I can really quickly try to create another one. So I don't know. I won't know if we can get into there until I can get out of here.
Send a new link.
Yeah, do a new link. That would be
right?
better.
Okay.
Good idea, Heather. Good idea.
Okay, that would be better. Okay. I'm requesting a motion and a second to go into closed session pursuant to 610.021, subsection 1 and 3, to discuss legal and personnel matters.
Bonnie Borough, so moved.
Phaedra Nelson, second.
Clerk Pittman, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Nelson,
Aye.
Councilwoman Noah,
Aye.
Councilwoman Burrow,
Aye.
Councilman Palmer,
Aye.
Councilwoman Robinette,
Aye.
Mayor Jones.
Aye.
Okay,
We are
just give me about 5 minutes.
Okay, we're going to
thank
take
you.
a 5-minute break. City clerk is going to send us a new link, and then we will go into closed session. Everyone have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.